So hi everyone, my name is Bea and I've got Angela on the call as well. And I'm going to run through my section so that Angela can get to her bit to talk about how See the Signs worked in Somerset as a case study where it was launched in end September and is currently there sort of 6 to 7 months in. So I'm just going to kick off to give you some background about the See the Signs system. So it's an integrated clinical system with the leading medical records. And it really started out with looking at how we can solve and try to tackle some of the challenges to early recognition and referral. And it started out with cancer risk prediction, and then it moved on to several other features as we looked at where the bottlenecks were further down in that pipeline to say, how can we build in automation and efficiency to say, moving to primary care triage of all patients, enabling smart cancer referrals to make sure 100% are appropriate on day one, automating safety netting to make sure that we're tracking all patients, and thinking about also how can we give primary care and PCNs their data in real time so they can really think about quality improvement and how they're performing in cancer and how they can look to actually start improving their cancer detection rates at the coalface. So I'm going to walk you through some of the features. And just to start off is a lot of what we do is looking at how we can support with the DES-COF and the IIF cancer requirements across. And again, these are adapted and updated year on year and customized based on what the needs are. When it comes to who's using us, we are working in partnership with, we need to now update this slide for ICSs and ICBs, but CCGs across the country. We've just launched in Wales as well in 2 health boards there. We have about 10,000 healthcare professionals using the system. So what is the cancer risk prediction? Essentially, it enables GPs and healthcare professionals to search by any sign, symptom, or risk factor. So they can type in weight loss, thrombocytosis, leukocytosis, and they'll be funneled down essentially what cancer the patient's at risk of, and then what's the most appropriate next step for this patient. Is it a test? Is it a diagnostic, or is it actually a 2-week wait referral pathway? And in some cases, actually, the patient may not be even at risk of cancer, and they can be safely excluded from a cancer pathway within primary care and then safety netted. What we also look to do working with areas is thinking about access at scale across an area. So configuring it to both to community and all secondary care providers in an area to say, actually, what direct access is available. Some hospitals might have an NSS pathway, some might have a straight to CT pathway. How do we make that available and accessible to GPs at point of care when the patient's in front of them and they're making that decision to say, where do I want to send this patient? So it may be for vague symptom pathways, but it may be also something as simple as, okay, I can get a CT pancreas here. I don't need to do an upper GI referral in those instances. So thinking about a systems level approach with respect to that. Our referrals are slightly different. We use a smart technology. So actually all information put into a referral form is triaged in primary care, enabling that actually on referring, 100% of cancer referrals are clinically appropriate. We can also build in, as you can see at the bottom, pulling through health inequality information, prehab information to make sure things like MRI questionnaires or prehab information is sent through. All leaflets and resources are embedded, available in multiple languages as well, into the referral forms, so patients are brought in through that cancer journey and made aware. We also enable uploading of multiple pictures to the skin referral forms, again, to support with teledermatology of those pathways. And when it comes to vague symptoms, we're aware of how challenging it can be, especially based on the NICE cancer guidelines, where often patients might trigger multiple different tests and investigations when they present with vague symptoms. So how do we think about sending the patient down the right pathway rather than thinking about several different pathways where patients might end up? So really thinking about how we can optimize resourcing and ensure the patient goes down the right pathway based on the symptoms that they present with. The cancer dashboard provides real-time tracking. So the system is one click to do a risk assessment or a referral. And the second aspect is a one click to the dashboard. So this is a real-time dashboard of every patient who's on a suspected cancer pathway at the practice. You can see the data that's tracked from left to right, providing a full audit trail of where this patient is in their journey. And as they go through the pathway and as results come back in, we automatically populate the dashboard by pulling through in their chest X-ray results or their FIT results, which has been really critical with new DES requirements and IIF requirements for FIT and being able to show GPs how they're performing with respect to the timeframes and the FIT results to action abnormal test results and investigation results. Once a patient has been diagnosed with cancer, they get moved over to the Cancer Confirm board. And again, this is a real-time dashboard that they can see all their patients and their cancer population. The drop-down actually shows how they presented, the date of referral, date of diagnosis. So you can actually see the FDS performance by patient at a primary care level. You can also see it by pathway to see actually which pathways are taking longer for patients to get through compared to other pathways. We also have prompts there to help support managing your cancer population in terms of proactively thinking about when they need their 3-month and their 12-month. And whether that's completed through See the Signs or not will automatically populate the dashboard to say if it's completed outside of See the Signs, we'll pull through that to make sure the system is updated. So we work interchangeably with EMEA System 1 or Vision to essentially read the data in there or push the data back in. The cancer care reviews that we've developed through our system, working with Macmillan, work slightly differently in the sense that we've created a CCR form. So actually a patient gets a PDF copy of the cancer care review that's emailed or SMS to them at that point that the review is completed. You can see here we actually have a resource bundles as well. So multiple resources can be selected and then sent to that patient in a PDF copy. So if they would benefit from 5 or 6 resources, which might end up being 30 or 40 pages, actually it gets sent to them in a bundle rather than thinking about how you're going to print multiple sets of resources in primary care. So the patient has a hard copy. It saves as a hard copy in the notes as well. So it can be shared with community teams, palliative care, and also secondary care as where that patient is within their cancer journey. Once a patient's gone through the system, and you can see we just walked through the suspected dashboard, the cancer confirmed, and also the practice data dashboard where we're now, we also show practices their performance both at a practice level, and in one click they can see their PCN total, PCN average, and also click between the practices and their PCN to see how the different practices are faring, to see actually, are we the lowest referring practice in our PCN? That's really helpful to identify to say, actually we need to be thinking about increasing our referral rates. How many urology referrals have we done this month? Are we looking to hit our prostate target of how many cancers we want to do in the recovery phase of the patients we've missed? And also, what is our conversion rate per pathway? So here actually they can see what their cancer referrals are. Apologies, I can think this is in the way. But what their referrals are when it comes to their top referral pathways, diagnostic pathways, and their conversion rate through these pathways. The dashboard also serves as a way to showing them where they can improve their quality improvement initiatives as well, month on month. And then this data is aggregated and provided to the ICB in order to support with capacity and care planning, but also to get a better understanding of how primary care is working towards earlier and faster cancer detection. From an impact perspective from previous sites we've worked with, you can see we look at how we can take an impact-based approach and an evidence-based approach to say, is See the Signs helping decision-making with the real-time decision support, primary care triage, and the smart referral forms to ensure the right populations are being sent into secondary care and we're improving detection rates. These are 3 pilots that we did across different areas in England. This is using Public Health England fingertips data. And along the bottom, you can see the year-on-year improvements we saw in cancer detection rates across these 3 sites. On the right-hand side, you can see the referral rates. These are per 100,000 for these 3 regions. And most interestingly, you can see actually they're less than the England average and also the control sites referral rates. So a lot of what we're seeing across the regions using the system is that we're not getting higher detection rates from putting more activity through 2-week wait clinics and into secondary care. It's actually through intelligently identifying the correct at-risk population and achieving better detection rates as a result of that. And I think this is a lot of the reason why, especially in the narrative with the elective recovery and the impact pandemic has had, is a reason why a lot of areas now are looking to try and see how the system can help support both outpatient recovery and with the cancer detection rates agenda. When talking about the pandemic, we also had a couple of areas that we deployed to during the pandemic, purely to see how we can protect cancer detection rates. Here you can see the rate of referral changes in 3 of the areas with using North Central London as a control and the proportion of missing cancer diagnoses. And you can see there is a significant protective effect in Northwest London where we launched, and we also saw essentially 50% fewer missing cancer patients compared to North Central London and across England, which had an equal impact on their rate of change in referrals and their missing cancer population. So again, we're seeing really interesting data coming out of where See the Signs was implemented in the pandemic period. And equally, we saw impact with regards to 14 and 62 day across our sites as being improving comparatively with how England's performance has been. And a lot of that has been down to seeing how we can improve triage in primary care with respect to early cancer detection rates. Just some of our features coming soon. So ERS integration, auto population of the dashboard. So again, capturing any FITs or 2-week waits done outside of See the Signs. We're looking at cancer case finding, where we can identify high-risk patients in the background of an EMR and invite them for screening, and a cancer screening dashboard. Something that's coming later this year as well is an inequality dashboard and how we can track and report on inequality outcomes and metrics by these factors here. Now, handing over to my colleague, Dr. Angela Beattie, who is the GP Cancer Clinical Lead in Somerset, who led on the implementation, deployment, commissioning of See the Signs, and who is our main point of contact in Somerset. So over to you, Angela.
Lovely, thanks, Bea. So next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just sort of giving a brief idea how we went through the commissioning process. So we had our steering group that obviously had the key stakeholders. So that was including primary care as well. So we had a large number of GP clinical leads involved, had digital team IG, and we had the trust managers, their cancer managers, LMC, ourselves, and the IT team as well. The main thing obviously was looking at the various options that we had for CDSs, but also what there was currently. And when we went through it all, really, it came down to Ardens and See the Signs. And in Somerset, we only commission Arden Starter, and there wasn't really any comparison because they don't have a certain number of the aspects that See the Signs has for us. And then we arranged a demonstration by Bea and her team and Ardens, and I think the main thing is that it's the risk assessment section, and that's the bit that's going to drive the early detection, and that certainly wasn't available. And certainly with Arden Starter, we don't have the referral forms, so I'll come on to in a little bit later at what we've actually done with all that. But it was a direct award because there wasn't anything else that was that we wanted to commission, and there wasn't any resistance to that. Sorry, it's popped onto mute. I hope you heard some of that. Yes, so this is a summary really of the things that we were looking at that we had certain problems with and that See the Signs has helped us solve. So the first thing on the left-hand column, which is the variations in referrals, the main thing was that in Somerset, we actually have 8 trusts that GPs can refer to. So we had various referral forms, we had old versions of referral forms out and about. It used to be that we would have a e-referral template that GP surgeries would go on, download their forms, but then they might keep old forms on their system. So it was a bit of a mishmash as to what was being sent into secondary care. We also launched the non-site specific rapid diagnostic service, that's the NSSRDS last year. And again, we wanted to promote that. And it's hard work, as you know, to get the word out there, but also engagement. And Fit Pathway, again, with audits that we were doing, weren't a huge number of patients. 67% of referrals that should have had a fit actually had a fit. So we just needed to tighten that up. And with See the Signs, what we've done is I had an excellent program manager for us at the CCG, and she managed to get all the referral forms from all the trusts rapidly. And we had a very large meeting with See the Signs, went through them all and rationalised them. With the See the Signs referral forms, they're live, and we can also do mandatory fields. So therefore, if we know that we need bloods available at the point of triage in secondary care, we actually can hold that referral back until those results are available. And no referrals ever rejected, but the point is that if you don't have those bloods available at the point of triage, then you can have a massive delay, and this is on another section of this slide, but you can have a delay of up to 12 weeks, we found, just because you're waiting for the results like an EGFR so that you can go ahead with contrast for CT. You may want to know for blood count and iron studies to know if you're safe to actually do a colonoscopy. So it's all those sorts of bits of information that block that pathway. So the patient is really having a very extended pathway. GPs may feel they're doing a really quick job doing the 2-week referral, that's done. But really they're taking a step back and making sure everything's in place is the best way forward. So as I said before, in the next column, that's poor quality control. That was with all the various referral forms that are out and about in primary care. And then some very erroneous ones are being sent. We don't know where they managed to get those from. And it was actually taking 6 to 8 months to make any changes to pathways or referral forms, because you'd have to go through all the committees in secondary care, then with the LMC and ourselves, and we'd keep going through it and through it and through it. And eventually one would be put onto the templates referral website that they would then go on to. And safety netting variable, because everybody had their own system. EMIS does have one, but it's just a list, and it's not an active safety netting. As you've seen from B's presentation, the safety netting dashboard is excellent. And the whole thing is that what they've done is we've actually picked up a major systematic error that we had no idea was there. So on that live board that says how long are you waiting for a diagnosis, we were having a large number of dermatology patients suddenly stacking up. And that showed that actually the follow-up letters weren't being sent out by one of the trusts. So they had 1,000 letters to send out as a result. So I think that shows how excellent that was and really, really valuable. The other thing is when you've got the investigations, that's on that there. So it's, if the GP is away on holiday, other members of the team can chase up those results and make sure that referral goes ahead. If they haven't been seen in clinic, it'll flag up that they haven't been seen, so you can chase secondary care. So it really is a good safety netting dashboard. And we have cloud-based forms, so that if See the Signs goes down, there's a Google Drive link that you can go onto and get the up-to-date forms. And you've got version control because we only have the ones available on See the Signs. And it gets updated within 48 hours of a decision. We have a clinical reference group that we formed with the LMC and See the Signs ourselves and the cancer managers, so that we can actually go through all the pathway changes and make sure there's good governance. But when we've made those decisions, within 48 hours, it's live. So delays to diagnosis, I already mentioned that really. Missed bloods, missing fit tests, unable to triage, 12-week delay. Now, because they're held until you've got everything available, it goes through. Improvement to early cancer detection, management of vague symptoms. So that's just the NSS RDS that we talked about. That will get signposted through See the Signs if people use that risk assessment first section. And the main thing is, I thought the main product plus really is the risk assessment, because that you don't have anywhere else. And you can either search via symptoms or signs. And I had one example where a GP who's got many, many, many years of experience and said, well, actually, I did all the investigations for abdominal pain and, I came up with nothing. And then I thought, well, I'll just give it a go. And he said, suddenly it came up with CA125 as a suggestion. So I suddenly went down the gynae route, and lo and behold, she had an ovarian cancer. So that was an excellent example, I think, of how that assessment section does work. And then next slide, please, B. Thank you. So some of this I've already mentioned. Clinical reference group we have, and it's an iterative process. And we've changed the way that we actually put the whole thing through now. The other thing is that we also have See the Signs have a notice board. So any changes that we make, we can immediately put out there. So that's next day, they know exactly what we're doing, rather than we'll do it obviously via our newsletters, but then it goes straight on to See the Signs as well. So everybody that uses See the Signs will see it. And then, as always with engagement, you have to have feedback. So I get feedbacks on emails, feedbacks via, we've got various groups, got champion groups, we've got, another group with the LMC and clinical leads. So the main thing is that there's continual feedback. And I found that See the Signs is very, very, very good at support and education. So they're always available to provide education to anybody. And any request I've had for support in meetings, or if I've got a query from someone, it's answered quickly and efficiently. So I found that to be really excellent as well. And then we get our usage data every month. And this is very valuable. And again, See the Signs being very flexible as to what they provide, because obviously your needs change as time goes on. So you might say, well, actually, I'd like to know what percentage of GPs, but also allied health professionals are using this, and who's using the risk assessment section, who's doing this, who's doing that, so you can improve your engagement. And again, secondary care have wanted, like I said, breast audit and cancer care review audit. If they want to know specifically what's happening, is that changing, what's coming through to secondary care, Bea and her team can look at that and get that information for us. The other thing with cancer care reviews, which is a hot topic for us in Somerset, is trying to improve that quality. And now that we've got the Macmillan template on See the Signs, that is driving that improvement in quality, because they can just go on See the Signs, complete it. Before, there was a bit of a fluffy sort of guidance as to which cancer care review template you should be using. Well, now it's as clear as day, it's on See the Signs. Bea, next page, please. This is our engagement in Somerset. So if we look at the blue, we've got the number of risk assessments. Now, this is the area that I think we need most work now to drive, because you've got allied health professionals and new GPs that actually find it, I think they're more open to using it. And for me, the next challenge really is to say, long in the tooth, experienced GPs that think they know what they're doing. The whole point is the data shows that we're not picking up these early cancers enough. So we've got to expand the thinking. And the beauty of it is that will open up the ideas like that GP. I think there was a little query about when you've been offered with See the Signs so many investigations and so many referral pathways, what do you do? It's clinical acumen. The point is that you have your experience, you have your knowledge, so you will say, actually, I think the most likely thing out of these suggestions is this, or actually I will do these other tests. I mean, with the NSSRDS, we've got 15 filter tests as per national guidance, and you'll do that. But on the other hand, it might be that you've got those sort of vague symptoms and you want to follow what See the Signs does. There's no problem with doing those investigations. There is no drive to follow the recommendations either. It's purely a sort of informational and suggestion for you. And then you can decide where you refer, what you do. And you've still got your clinical judgment. So a number of 2-week wait patients that are going through See the Signs, and that's the orange, and that's increasing. We had a bit of a dip in April 22 because of Easter. Everything always drops off at Easter, apparently. And then the number of patients safety netted, and this is key, everybody's involved. I have a team of cancer care coordinators which were recruited as the reimbursable roles for the PCN DES. And they have been instrumental in getting this up and running and putting it out through the PCNs and the practices that don't have a cancer care coordinator. I've got clinical leads in the PCNs, so I have a forum and we've got really good communication. See the Signs has been on multiple calls with our whole team, and yeah, I think that's why we've got such great engagement. Next slide, please, Bea. Yeah, so here we've got the users. So you've got 1,169 users. Now, we have 100% of practices signed up to it. We have the risk assessment, as I've said, needs to be encouraged more. And the main thing is that the ERS activity, so that's saying how many of the 2-week wait referrals are going through See the Signs compared to other ways. Well, it says 88% there. Anecdotally, from the trusts, we get maybe 1 or 2 forms sent in the wrong direction. So they might suddenly print out a form from See the Signs, fill it in and send it in. I've no idea why. So I haven't got a sort of idea that it's 88%. I would say it's about 99.5% go through. And it just has that element of control. We know what forms we're using. We know that we've got those bloods in place. Something that Bea's highlighted there is 857 patients are safely excluded. Now, this is something that we haven't had before, where you're not too sure what's going on and you might put it in the risk assessment. This may be for the more inexperienced clinicians, I don't know. But the point is that if you've got those things and you put your information in, it will say, actually, it's highly unlikely it's a cancer. So as with everything, you always safety net a patient. So you'll say, there we go, it's unlikely, and they can maybe feel more reassured in that way. Or the opposite, if you've got an advanced nurse practitioner that's seen a patient, it's done the risk assessment, and it says this should go on to a 2-week wait referral, they may have more confidence in going to their GPs and saying, actually, I want to crack on with this. What do you think? This is what's been recommended. So it's actually helped both ways with the patients for that. So what have we got here? Data previously difficult to track, now available. And so the PCN and practice level data, that's evolving. I think the thing is, in time, that's becoming more useful to them. Removing patients not at risk of cancer from the pathway. So once they're on that safety netting, if they've also had, later on, if they also had a cancer diagnosis excluded, they could be taken off. Also earlier on, if, like I said, they've had it excluded, they don't have to follow any further pathways. And then every month we get these meetings where we go through the data for the engagement, and that's been really helpful. So you need that continual feedback loop. Next slide, please, Bea. This is just standard data. This is just looking at what referrals went through See the Signs. And I don't think that's particularly changed as a result. I don't know, because I don't know what secondary care we're seeing before. But you can see there's a lot of urological, and we're trying to recover our urological referral rates, so that's good news. Breast and skin's always large. So yeah, it's all working through. So like I say, every month we get data, and if we ask for a different analysis, a different one will come the next month. So it's very, very useful. Thank you. Are you going to summarize, Bea?
Yeah, I think we're over. So thank you so much, everyone, and apologies for running over, but more than happy to share the slides at the end of this presentation as well. And I've just got some details here. If you'd like to contact Angela further or myself, please feel free to take our email addresses.